I'm Makinia Juma. I'm a deputy editor for Africa Check, and I'm joined with the two of my co-hosts, that is Tess Wandia, who's a senior researcher for Africa Check, and Duncan Bwire, who's also a researcher for Africa Check. So today we are exploring two of the biggest news stories in Kenya that happened this year. That's the Gen Z-led protest between June, July, and the proceedings of impeachment of our former deputy president, Rigathi Gachagua. And both of these stories were incredible, had an incredible amount of misinformation, and some of it was intentional. We could see it. And some of it was non-intentional because people are sharing it because they don't know. But all of it had a real impact on public opinion and democracy. So Tess, tell us more about this.
It all began with rejecting the finance bill. And Kenyans were, I think we got to the point where Kenyans were saying they don't want this finance bill. And we saw that the Gen Z-led protests came to be, where we saw young people taking to the streets to actually voice their opinions around the finance bill. So what happened online was also a critical information point. There was a lot of images or a lot of videos, as you say, manipulated, and some were actually the truth. But then the point of verification where you're not so sure, is it true, is it false? A lot of this media was also triggering a lot of emotions around Kenyans, making people angry, making them happy, but also confused, because when there's an influx of information, then people don't know who and what to trust.
That's true.
So I guess this is the conversation that we're going to have today around some of these examples that we saw.
That's really interesting. I really want to get to the examples. And Duncan, what are some of these types of misinformation that we saw during this period and how we tackle them?
So, as you've correctly said, Tess, there were punitive taxes, or people say there were punitive taxes being introduced on basic commodities like bread, like sanitary towels. And, people were angry. People want to express this anger. But what we saw was the leaders in government trying to ignore these calls and trying to say that these people do not have an agenda and they just want to protest for the sake of it. And so one of the claims that we saw being made public was by Kenya's President William Ruto. So William Ruto at some point told a public rally that these protests were being funded by the Ford Foundation. And so when we looked closely at this, or we followed his conversation later, he blamed it on Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua and his allies. Months later, he said that this protest was as a result of misinformation and fake news online. So if you look at this, there's no there's no clear point on what caused this protest, at least according to him. But we know that these were being caused by the taxes that were being introduced, and these were touching on a common mwananchi, ordinary citizen at the village level.
So during this period, what misinformation did you see? What misinformation did you see that was in context to what was happening during that time?
So you remember there's a time when a Kenyan MP, John Kiaria, telling his fellow MPs that the images of people being in the streets have been downloaded. And you saw this was clearly false, because people are actually in the streets protesting against that. And, to acknowledge his mistake, he later apologized and said, it was a mistake, and he apologized to the youth. So I think what you've said there, the leaders did not believe that the youth were revolting against them. They were standing up against these punitive taxes.
Yes. So it's something new in Kenya. So we've never seen such a big crowd coming in with the same, we have the same reason to protest. We're all protesting because of the taxes, because of the better opportunities that we need. We need the government to work. I know this protest brought in some changes, maybe some we didn't see, some we saw. But could you tell me, more of examples that happened during and after this protest, and what we could see and the context in it?
Right. So another piece of disinformation that was being leveraged on social media was, I remember after one of the big protests, since there were multiple protests, there were rumors or there was some messaging around a massacre that happened in Githurai, which is one of the lower income neighborhoods in Nairobi. The reporting that was happening online was that after the protests happened, like in CBD or in the key city centers, the police officers followed protesters back home, and then they were opening fire in like marketplaces and shooting, people dead.
So this happened during the same period. Was it during the working period or?
So at night, so this happened at night after a protest. And so the challenge was there were no reports actually confirming or not confirming that this was happening. Yeah. So the fact is, when there's a lack of information, you could see that people were filling in the gaps for themselves. So we saw a video that was going round where we could see people running across a street, holding candles. And the captions to this video was people saying that there was a candle lighting ceremony in memory of people who lost their lives in the Githurai massacre. So you could see when there was a lack of information corroborating or confirming whether there was an actual massacre. And then now you're seeing this video being shared online, people holding candles and running across a street. You could feel like these two events are correlated and they're actually true, because it's also a very highly charged, emotive type of message. You could see this video went viral on X, on Facebook, on Twitter. I'm sure even on WhatsApp, people were forwarding these claims as well. So when we got the video as Africa Check, of course, for us, before we look at a video and confirm that it's true, we have to do our background checks. So we did some reverse imaging. And what that led us to was to realize that this video was actually from several years back. And even it wasn't a video from Kenya. It was a video from Ghana for a lighting festival. So you can see how a different context has been brought into a video just to match what was happening in the political landscape here in Kenya. So you could see how this very, this video that fit perfectly could be very easily adopted into this scenario.
So moving on to the second story, we have the impeachment proceeding against the deputy president that happened a month ago. And this news actually shocked a lot of people. It also shocked me. And I didn't expect it to end the way it went. And the rumors that surrounded it and the theories, we had a lot of misinformation in it. Some we could see it, some we could not actually believe it. So could you tell us some of this information that we saw and how we got to getting the actual true information?
The impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua, the former deputy president, was also marred by a lot of false images and videos, and people wanted to create some certain narratives about them. And so others were trying to implicate the deputy president using videos that were old and taken a long time ago. So there's this one video that showed Gachagua speaking, and the video has been edited to include a text that he is addressing the Luya and Luo communities, and he's speaking harshly.
Sisi ndio tulimbea rais, amekuwa rais. Amekupatia kazi. Wewe umekuja hapa kuanza kutusi sisi na kuita watu ya Mlima Kenya na Rigathi Gachagua wa kabila. Wewe enda kwenu.
Is like castigating the two. This person wanted to paint a picture that he is castigating the two communities.
It's bringing division, the one we saw on the other one.
Yes. And remember, one of the charges that he was facing in parliament is creating ethnic divisions. So by inserting this text in this video, saying that Gachagua is talking to the Luya and the Luya communities, he was trying to implicate him, trying to show that this is guilty and he needs to go home. So this was meant to change people's emotions or perceptions about the impeachment. So what we did, we arrested this video early enough because it had garnered up to 1.8 million views. We arrested it. We checked. We saw that what he was talking about his rivals, assumed perceived political rivals. And at no point in the video did he mention the Luo and the Luya communities. So this person who was sharing it was just meant to create that perception that he is a tribal guy and he needs to go home.
As we can see, like, the harm comes when that disinformation like this, it just confuses people. It creates the division and makes people now question the authorities, question the democratic institutions. What made people actually believe and share this information during this period where we had impeachment of the deputy president?
Yeah. So what makes some of this information very highly, shareable is because it kind of confirms our bias, right? So say in the division of, tribes, so of course, Rigathi Gachagua is Kikuyu, right? So when he's addressing Luos and Luyas, it's obviously that the Luos and Luyas will be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he could speak to us like this. So it heightens someone's anxiety, heightens someone's animosity, and you immediately want to share it before even confirming that what is being written is actually correct. So an example I saw was where Rigathi Gachagua, now after the impeachment, he's talking about how you should keep quiet, when they do bad things to us, we should not complain, we should not shout, we should not protest, not go to the, just accept and be quiet. But then what I saw was in the caption, someone had written context because he was speaking in Kikuyu. Okay. So in the subtitle, someone was talking about, I know something that is coming. You just keep quiet. There's something that I know. So you see, already there's some nuances there because in the past, when we look at Kenya and post-election violence, where there was a lot of animosity amongst the tribes, there was murders, like there was actual moments where we could see there was tribal lines that had been drawn and there was a lot of violence. So coming from that history, and then you can see something like this happening again, you'd easily believe it because it has happened in the past. And people are very sensitive to it and very, quick to see it and sound the alarm. So they want to share it so that other people can see that, oh my gosh, history is repeating itself, right? But something we need to take note of is before you share something with a subtitle, especially around these key political events, is talk to someone else maybe who speaks Kikuyu. And, maybe as a Luo or Luya and you're reading this, you'd be very quick to share it. But maybe you can go to someone else and ask, what exactly is he saying? Think about also the fact that it's not always that you'll have a political figure being very inflammatory openly on the media. There's also some checks and balances that are happening these days that such inflammatory remarks would not just be openly and comfortably be shared on, mass media. So ask someone, what is this subtitle actually correct before you share it?
So we pause and verify before we share it.
You pause and verify before you share it. Yeah.
Oh, that's so true. Yeah, we need to pause and verify information. Everything we hear on social media, everything we listen to, and all that. So Duncan, what's your takeaway from all these?
I'll just add on what Tess said that. Usually unfortunately, this false information, this usually spread faster than facts. And because they have been crafted in a way to trigger that emotional response. And so when this kind of content is posted, it usually gets a lot of shares, a lot of reactions, and it goes faster because algorithms favor this kind of content. But as she has said, people need to be more careful when they come across this content before sharing first of all, verify.
Thank you for tuning in for today's episode. If you found this episode informative, share it with your friends, your family. You can now share it on social media because it's a verified information. Thank you.